running a successful training brand.
So that was just sort of my journey, through school, through London, and then Muay Thai, Jiu-Jitsu. That's how I came back and started Crosstrain in India.
He has represented India at international tournaments.
I went there for the World Championship, and I was competing at the brown belt level.
NewsX India A-list proudly recognizes Siddharth Singh for excellence in business leadership.
Hello, welcome. I'm Siddharth Singh. You're joining us on this interview as part of our NewsX A-list series. We're in conversation today with Siddharth Singh. Siddharth is founder, Crosstrain Fight Club. He's also, of course, India's pioneer in the field of MMA and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Welcome, Siddharth, to NewsX. Thank you for joining us.
Hi, Uday. Thanks a lot for the opportunity. It's taken us a while to get here, but I'm glad to be here.
Yes, very happy to have you. And let's just begin, from the start. So, when did your passion for combat sports start? Was it school? Was it college? And take us through the journey of actually quitting your corporate job to begin, following your passion.
Yeah, so I went to a school that you're familiar with as well. I went to this school in Dehradun called the Doon School, and boxing there was a sport. And my brother was already a boxer, and he was a boxer who was doing pretty well in our house. So not too many 12-year-olds want to go and get punched in the face. So I didn't want to get into boxing, but because my brother was in it, there was no option. It was Siddharth Singh, your brother's a boxer, get into it, start boxing.
Yeah.
So that's how I got into boxing. It wasn't really a choice. But once I got into it, I was already playing a lot of sports. Like in Doon, you play a lot of sports. So I was playing a lot of sports, but boxing for me was the most difficult. Yeah. It was the one that gave you butterflies, before the bout. You got so nervous, and the entire school is watching. So it was an experience for me, and I lost a lot of my bouts, like up into SC form. I never won my weight class. I always lost in the finals.
Okay.
So that sort of gave me like this innate hunger to win and to succeed and to put in the effort. So my SC form, my class 12, I put in a lot of effort and I won my weight class.
Yeah.
But even though school ended and boxing in school ended, that hunger never left me, to be honest. And then I did my undergraduation from Delhi University. I was doing economics honors, and here I continued to box. Then I went for a master's degree to Scotland, and there was no boxing whatsoever. So that's the 1 year in my life where I couldn't box at all. Yeah. And then I got a job in London. In London, I tried to find boxing. I couldn't find a good gym. Okay. But I did find a good Muay Thai gym. So Muay Thai is a different sport altogether.
Yeah.
It's the national sport of Thailand. Yeah. So apart from punching, there is kicking, throwing elbows, throwing knees, which just sounds brutal. I remember calling the guy and I said, listen, I've done boxing before. Do you have boxing in your academy? He said, we don't have boxing. We have Muay Thai. It's almost the same. And I went in and it was completely different because I was getting kicked and I was getting thrown my head. And I was like, this is not the same, but it's a lot of fun. So that was my second element. Like I got into Muay Thai. And then one day my Muay Thai academy was having this Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu seminar. I didn't know what the hell Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu was. And it's apparently ground fighting. So I went for the seminar. I saw a number of people on the floor, like rolling on top of each other. Yeah. I didn't know what the hell it was. And they said, oh, this is Jiu-Jitsu. I said, okay, I don't want to do this. I don't want someone sweaty guy on top of me. Yeah. But then there was this one small girl. She was about 40 kilos from Iran. She didn't have a partner. Mm-hmm. So my coach at the time was like, Sid, just go and help her out. You've trained before. I said, yeah, I'll go. And then it came down to sparring. And, she told me that she's trained before. And she said, don't go light on me.
Okay.
And I was like, I was 75 kilos. She was 45 kilos. So I didn't go very hard, but I went to control her. And the next thing I remember, I woke up looking at the ceiling, like she choked me unconscious. So I didn't know what had happened. She had put me in a submission choke and I didn't know what it was. I couldn't get out and I passed out. Next time we went again, and this time I went 120 kilos. So I was like, listen, she's so small and everyone has an ego. So I was like, oh, my ego is like, I need to smash her. So I went in and next thing I know, 10 seconds later, I'm waking up again, looking at the ceiling. She put me to sleep again, unconscious, in a submission called the rear naked choke. So I realized then that I'd been training at that point for like a good 10 years of combat sports. And there was this girl who was 30 kilos lighter than me. And she had put me unconscious twice within 6 minutes. So I realized that, and this is a girl. So I thought, in my head, okay, if she can do it to me, with me being 30 kilos heavier, maybe if I learn this, I can do this to someone who's 30 kilos heavier than me.
Yeah.
And the second thing that came to my mind was, because we're Indians, so I thought, imagine if like Indian women learn this.
Yeah.
Because we keep hearing about like attacks on women and this and that. Like, imagine if I learn it and I can teach it to them.
Yeah.
Imagine the impact that can have. So that was sort of the germ of the idea. And then I had a full-time job, but every time I would come back to Delhi, I would never find a good place to train.
Yeah.
There were a lot of fake experts teaching self-defense and combat sports. So that was sort of, my journey, through school, through London, and then Muay Thai, Jiu-Jitsu. That's how I came back and started Crosstrain in Delhi.
And finally, of course, you started, we'll get to that in a bit, but, you've of course also represented India, in combat sport. Just tell us about a couple of most prestigious tournaments that you've represented India. Which are the medals which are most special for you, Siddharth?
The most special medal is the most recent one. So I was in Abu Dhabi just before our second lockdown happened. I was actually in Abu Dhabi when the lockdown was announced. Okay. So I went there for the World Championship.
Yeah.
And I was competing at the brown belt level. So in Jiu-Jitsu, there are belt levels. So there's white, blue, purple, brown, and black. So I'm at brown. And I got silver medal for India, the World Championship. And it was the only time where an Indian had competed at that level on the international stage and got a medal.
Yeah.
So I think that medal for me is one of the most important ones. There are two other medals which are very special to me.
Okay.
One is a championship in Taiwan called ADCC. So Abu Dhabi Combat Club is the world's most prestigious grappling event. And I went there all by myself and just to fight like a bunch of killers from all over the world. And there was nobody to coach me, nobody to corner me. I went all by myself and I won my weight class. And in Jiu-Jitsu, you can also do an open class where you can fight people from all weight classes.
Okay.
So in that one, I came second in the open weight. So that was a big one. And the final one was the British Open. Because again, no Indian had ever won a medal in Britain. Yeah. And I won gold at purple belt, a couple of years ago. So those are the three biggest events for me. Also because they could...
Yeah, thank you. And it's great that you're doing it, in sports that we're not traditionally strong at. Which is something, even more phenomenal. Now, coming to, the journey of starting your Crosstrain Fight Club in Delhi. Now, as I said, this is something that obviously is not something that, is traditionally very active or popular in India. So how was the response when you first started out, when you first came back and started the club? And how is the response now? How is it picked up?
Yeah, I came back to India in 2012, right at the end of 2012. And I completely overestimated the response I'm going to get in India. Because before coming in, I did a little bit of market research. I created a Facebook page.
Okay.
And I just tried to gather information as to do people know about the sport of mixed martial arts? Do they know Jiu-Jitsu? And I got a pretty phenomenal response because nobody in India was teaching MMA.
Yeah.
There were a couple of good gyms in Nasik, but overall there was no one doing it in Delhi or North India. So I got a really good response and I came back and I was like, oh, this is like a golden idea, like business idea. Like, I'm going to come in, I'm going to open up the academy, we're going to get flooded by members. And it was totally not that.
Yeah.
When we came back, nobody knew what it was.
Yeah.
Most of the people had watched this Hollywood movie called Never Back Down. And they'd seen it and they're like, we want to learn Never Back Down. Yeah. And they came in, they realized, it's not as glamorous as it looks.
Exactly.
It's a lot of hard work. It's like 1,000 push-ups a day, 1,000 squats, it's sweating, it's hot. So a lot of people wanted to do it. They did a class and they realized, actually, it's not for us. Yeah. So they came and they bailed. Yeah. So that initial period was really difficult, like from 2012, 2016, 17, where nobody knew what the sport was in Delhi. But eventually, like with a bunch of Bollywood movies coming through, Sultan came in, which was about MMA. Dangal came in, which helped, talking about wrestling and MMA. So those things helped. And now over the last few years, the sport has really picked up. Like this, UFC, the world's largest MMA organization, has become really popular. And we get free UFC events in India on television on Sony. So it's really good for growing the market in India. So it's growing over the last few years. I've seen a lot of growth.
Great. Well, that's great to hear, Siddharth, and let's hope that it continues to grow. And kudos to you for not just competing yourself, but also training the youngsters in the sport so that tomorrow they can also win medals like you've done for the country. So all the very best to you, Siddharth Singh. Thanks so much for joining us today on NewsX.
Thanks a lot. Appreciate it. Thanks.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.